Welcome aboard, everybody. My name is Doobyis. This is Fly in Formation. It's kind of an offshoot of my mix show. My mix show is called After the Smoke is Clear. I play an hour worth of independent hip hop, mostly Canadian, like 95% Canadian every week. And then for Fly in Formation, this series, what I do is talk to the artists whose music I'm playing, try to learn more about them and about the scenes that they represent. So today, without any further ado, joining me is Imperetiv. Do you go by Imperetiv? Should I call you Imperetiv? I know you're government just from seeing it on socials or whatever. What do you want?
When we're talking in this capacity, I am Imperetiv.
Perfect.
I think it's very much like a symbiotic relationship, like Eddie Brock and Venom. So in this capacity, I'm Imperetiv. If you're talking to me during the day, business hours 9 to 5, I'm Nate Butcher.
Perfect, man. Perfect. Yeah, I keep it the same way. You can call me Doobs or Doobyis or whatever works, man, honestly. But yeah, it's a pleasure to meet you, man. Thanks for coming through to talk.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'd just like to talk to artists about the art that they've been making lately. You've got no shortage of that. You did most recently, the newest thing I saw on your Spotify was the instrumentals issue 5 or whatever, right? So you've been doing the instrumental series. Are those beats that we'll end up seeing on other projects or that we've already seen on projects? I didn't honestly take a close enough look at the track listing to know.
Yeah, the way I run those is they're typically tracks that you've already probably heard.
Okay.
They're commercially released tracks either by myself or with other artists. And I mean, this is a gem for any producer watching. It's instrumentals. As a composer, a songwriter, we own 100% of that beat. So when you sell even if you sell a beat to a rapper, you own 100% of that beat as long as you do your paperwork right.
Okay.
So releasing it as an instrumental is another opportunity to get some royalties and get some money on that, and no one can take that away from you. So
beautiful, man. And there's definitely a market for people who just like to listen to hip hop beats too. Like I know a lot of rappers will listen to them to, practice writing or freestyle to or whatever, have those ciphers. But at the same time, there's also like the entire, lo-fi movement has taken over as what people study to or whatever. Not that you make lo-fis, but people probably also study to boom bap, I can imagine, just different tastes.
Definitely. Those beats though, here's an interesting thing is like, I was using Submit Hub. It's a website you can submit for playlists and things like that. And there's a lot of instrumental playlists out there. The interesting thing is a lot of those beats are formatted differently. So a lot of them don't actually accept. Like there are some that will accept the boom bap for, like you said, for the cipher purposes, for the freestyle purposes. But a lot of them won't actually accept just straight up boom bap beats.
What's wrong with the format? How do they format them to get on there?
I feel like it's just because the way hip hop is structured is very 4-bar. You know what I mean? It's very structured.
Verse, chorus, verse a lot of the time, and 16s for
Exactly, and the vocalist is usually that extra instrument. So when you have a 16-bar verse, it can drag when you don't have that extra instrument of the voice.
Right.
So a lot of them will be like, and they pass on it. But there is a market out there.
Yeah, fair enough, man. I mean, so beyond the instrumental projects that you're dropping, like you also did in 2023, you had 2 different albums, Shamrocks and Machine Guns with Jay Roberts, and then your own Burial Plots and Pyramid Schemes. Right. And so also just this year, you did one with Joe Sig, Rome Was Built in a Day. Are those all projects that you've put together kind of on the fly as they've been like as artists have approached you? Or I mean, I guess more specifically the Jay Roberts one and the one with Joe Sig, did they approach you looking for a beat pack, or how did those come together, man?
Yeah, I know you posted some of the stuff with Jay Roberts talking about it. So Joe Sig hit me up off of YouTube, and it was during a time where I was still kind of finding myself in this niche, and it was perfect timing. He was a dope rapper. I was open to listening, and it worked out. And he's released a bunch of music. We released some music. He's taken some down, re-released things. But yeah, we just did Rome Was Built in a Day. That was recent, and interesting story on that. But he when you're producing beats for a lot of different artists, you got beats going in and out, in and out. Some people sit on things, so you don't always know what's in use and what's not.
Right.
So he had actually had an old beat pack, and he like decided to write to it, and like he like ended up releasing it. And I was like, yo, man, you got to take that down, because some of those beats are used now. And he respectfully, he did. You know, Joe Sig and I have actually built a very good relationship, and he was like, all right. But once he took it down, I was like, yo, this joint wasn't used, this joint wasn't used. Let's take those and build it from there.
Oh, nice.
So that's where Rome. So hypothetically, Rome was built in a day.
A couple of days, anyways. Yeah.
Was reconstructed afterwards.
Yeah.
But I think we were both happy with how that turned out. And then with Jay Roberts, as he mentioned, he reached out and he bought a beat off me, and off me watching his moves and listening to his progression as an artist and as a rapper and finding himself, I decided it would be beneficial for both of us to just work on a project together.
Nope.
And so as you can hear, I try and be open to that. Like, you know, you definitely have to have your shit together, though. I'm not saying that like I'll just work with anyone. That's not the case. I definitely field and screen the people I work with.
Right.
I try and relate and connect to them. I have a lot of video calls with artists I work with, just like how you and I are talking.
Yeah.
And I try and get to know them on a personal level. Joe Sig's down in North Carolina. You know, we'll meet someday, but it's not as easy as just being like, yo, come over to the studio. Jay Roberts lives in Barrie. I think we've met in person. I think might just be once at the actual release party in Toronto. We've only met in person that one time. So
damn, even that close together. How far is Barrie? You're in London, right?
Yeah, Barrie's 3 hours. So I mean, it's close enough, but here's the thing. We're all getting older. We all got jobs. We all got lives.
Sending files is quicker.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and it just keeps the workflow going. At the end of the day, it's a business too. Like you have a level of friendship, but I think it's good to have that line of friendship and business as well. And it just like it keeps things flowing.
Yeah.
Sometimes in friendships, the very first relationship I worked with in music was Jay West. And him and I were very much on a friendship level, which could cause rifts because, you you get that almost like sibling thing where you argue and you fight because, you know that you can.
Yeah, your homie feels like he can call you out a little bit more, be a little bit more confrontational maybe, right?
Exactly. So when you keep it like a line of friendship in business, you can definitely I feel like, get more done because it's understood.
Yeah, word, man. So once you send beats to people, like I know Jay Roberts mentioned he was watching you make beats on like a live session or whatever. I guess quick question, is that something you're doing on Instagram lives, or are you on Twitch, or where people find the live streams at?
I'm on Instagram. It was definitely more prevalent and more successful during COVID times.
Right.
Now I'll just randomly go live. Sometimes, you know what it feels like? It's like an accountability thing. It's like, I'm now live. That means I have to make something. I have to show and prove because people might be watching me.
Yeah.
So yeah, usually it's on Instagram. I feel like I'm doing it less and less these days. Just time in that, but I think it's good. I think the best way to do live streams, and you probably know this as well, is you have to announce it. You have to promote it as an event. Even during COVID, the most engagement and audience I received was it had to be marketed. Like, we are doing this release thing at this time on this day. Then people, like I said earlier about rappers and producers, everyone's got lives. Everyone's busier. I feel like the world is only getting busier because inflation, technology, computers. It's like people have a million things that they all have to do all at once.
For real. And art gets pushed to the back burner, right? Especially when everybody's so used to hearing like big hit singles and, the big famous people already, that it's tough for them to carve out extra time to support the indies, as important as it is. And, I'm always telling people do it. It's an uphill battle trying to get people to tune in, man. My strategy with trying to get people to come through on the live is just like really about building community with consistency. frequency. So like, you know, this is the 30th, I think, or 29th interview I've done this year already. So just trying to do every Tuesday. And, you know, this month I was doing Saturdays too. I'm going to be happy when the month is over because 2 interviews a week is a lot. Yeah. But dude, I wanted to ask you though, like when you send beats out to people, you know, say Jay Roberts or whoever, or Joe Sig, like, is it pretty much like they've got the beat now, it's out of your hands and you're done with it? Or will you kind of be open to, you know, making a structure change or something if there's a request like that?
No, I'll work with some things and restructure it like within reason.
Yeah.
You know, there was one where I was working on a project, neither of the artists you mentioned there, but one of the artists who I didn't have necessarily a direct relationship with didn't like the way I had the outro. So it wasn't even necessarily a structure thing, but like I like to use really progressive rock fusion, so off time things in outros and intros to kind of like mess with the listener's ear.
Right.
And he didn't like that. And
throw something that's off grid on there, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he didn't like that. And I was like, to be honest, man, like that, I respect that, but you wouldn't ask Alchemist to remove that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
To a level, that's your artistry, right? Like
exactly. Yeah. And that's like one of my signatures. And as an artist, as a producer, beat maker, you got to come up with signatures like that. How do you differentiate yourself from other people? Right. So like one thing I do a lot is like, it will almost be like no drums. And then it's like the last like 8 bars, all of a sudden like hi-hats and drums come in. And it's like at the very last thing. And I've tried making that a small signature, these off-grid prog rock sort of breakdowns. I've been using that. And that's like, you know, like Pharrell uses the 4 count at the start of every beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, beat start, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you got to find that signature for yourself. So those are a couple of mine. So my response was, you wouldn't ask Alchemist, don't ask me.
Nice, man. So like you mentioned kind of developing a signature sound. How would you describe your sound? Like I would just kind of call it boom bap, but there's this new element of boom bap coming around that's like boom bap tempo, but the drums aren't there as much, and like a lot of guys, you included, are kind of running with that sound, and I never know what to refer to it as. I've talked about this with other guests and been like, I call it drumless boom bap, and one of my homies, Kez Mega, was like, you can't call it drumless boom bap because boom bap is an onomatopoeia, man. Like it's describing the drums. So what is that music called, man? You got a name for it?
I mean, in this conversation here, I would call it underground renaissance, if you want to put a big umbrella on it. I mean, I still do boom bap, and it's more like in that class, but it's
not that all your stuff is drumless. It's far from that. You use drums, yeah, but
yeah, I mean, on the whole drumless tip, my whole thing is this, is when you have like even like a massive pop artist, or let's say Elton John, right? Massive musician.
Yeah.
He may have like a couple songs where it's like drums, and then there's a ballad with no drums. So in this indie era, we're releasing everything almost as singles.
Yeah.
But singles were typically in the past a label thing. So we're just releasing a song. It's not like it's a single. It doesn't have to be like that banger that hit home. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it doesn't need to have the mass appeal that singles used to have. Now it's just a steady stream of songs dropping. Yeah.
Exactly. And so my whole thing is this, is Lil Wayne said, let the beat build. My whole thing is let the album build. So if I hear a sample, I think I have one queued up here.
Oh, damn, you got the sampler sitting there ready to go. Beautiful.
Now there's slight drums in there.
I feel like the sound, we weren't getting the proper sound on it. I think it thought it was background noise and muted it out or something. I only heard bits and pieces, but yeah.
Doom's AI, it's picking up his background noise. So yeah. it was a piano drumless loop, but there's like some hi-hats, there's some tom fills, but I'm not gonna fight with the drums that are already in there. And with a piano sample like that, an artist, for example, one that I'm working with right now, G4 Jack, he's got a very deep baritone voice. So his voice over top of piano just sound like the contrast just works perfectly. Yeah. So why am I gonna fight it and put drums on there? You know what I mean? and I'd rather him treat it like it's a ballad, you know what I mean, and be able to write. It's a canvas for him to go off. And what it does also is it just gives a canvas and allows artists to really experiment with their vocals
Yeah.
and the way their modulation of their voice and use it as an instrument. And if you find the right artist that will do that, there's just certain artists that work well with it and know how to do it. Boldy James is one. Larry June sounds great on some, and I'm not going to say I'm going to do a full album like with that like whole concept. Some people are taking that as their signature and running with it.
Yeah.
For me, it's more like Lil Wayne said, let the beat build. I'm letting the album build. So if I hear the sample and I flip it that way, it's not like I'm making that like MOP Annie up. I'm like, this is just a specific special joint for the right rapper, the right rhymes, and the right song.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. And I mean, there's so much space sonically for the voice. That's my argument. I know some people who don't particularly love that drumless sound or whatever. Kind of some old head boom bap guys who just typically aren't feeling those songs or whatever as much. And I'm always, as an MC myself, I'm always like, nah, man, it's just about the bars more so on a track like that. It just gives the MC so much space to, like you said, experiment and take it whatever direction they really want to.
Well, I know there was one producer, he'd always be like, yo, man, why are you making that? Like, he actually was like, yo, why are you making that boom bap shit? You just stick to making bangers. And I'm like, in my head, I like range. I like, I listen to all different genres of music. I like different tempos. I like different vibes, different moods. Are people seriously just sitting there and be like, banger, banger, bang? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I've never understood that either, man. But I think that there are people like that who only want to hear the like pop club hit or whatever, like that really is just gonna be a banger. But nah, man, to me, like, the best rap albums are headphone albums, right? Where it's not focused on moving a crowd like that. That's just my personal opinion or whatever. But I think
make me feel something. You know what I mean? Take me on a journey. Like, I like looking at building albums as well, like a story. You have your intro, you have your rising action, you have your climax, you have your outro. I like building albums in the same way. It takes you on that journey. Like when you listen to Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, that is an audible journey from start to finish. And I like to carry that mentality into album crafting, song crafting, and et cetera.
Yeah, man, you're actually the second interview in a row that brought up Pink Floyd, but yeah, definitely, I was influenced by them listening to that music, back in the day before I got really deep into hip hop too, man. But yeah, would you say your style has been evolving over the years, or are you pretty much locked in at this point to kind of a steady sound?
It's interesting. I almost feel like my sound de-evolved. Like it's in the public eye, it would seem like it de-evolved. Thing is I was making the type of music I'm like basically known for now when I first started. But when I was living in Vancouver, a lot of artists weren't messing with that sound. It was West Coast, and they wanted more like a hybrid trap, banger sort of vibe.
Yeah.
And so I had to adapt and evolve then. And I was like, Kanye had released My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and I took a lot of inspiration from that. So when I dropped Full Circle, which is my first EP, if you listen to some of the songs on there, there's almost some overproduction areas. And that's where my music had evolved. And now, in a way, it's like a de-evolution, because I'm back to what the sound I've sold beats that I made back in 2012, 2013. People were like, yo, that's fire. And I'm like,
they're still feeling it.
Yeah. So but it is evolving. It's always, from me, I would like to, I think, go back a bit to some of that overproduction in a sense, to a little bit more mainstream. I've been having conversations with the homie G4 Jag a lot lately, and we're feeling it's like I have a commitment to some of these projects that I'm doing, and like I love this sound. It's like more or less what I listen to all. Like if I'm driving, that's what I'm listening to, is this underground, grimy, boom bap, underground renaissance.
Yeah. And it's had a real resurgence lately too, which probably, I don't know when you moved from Vancouver over to where you're at now, but back in the day, it wasn't quite as as mainstream. It was starting to fade from the mainstream more and more. You know, there were still people making boom bap, but not as popularly, I guess.
But Rock Marcy was doing it since back then, and then
Yeah.
Griselda really repopularized it. I want to say they started hitting kind of 2016 and like peaked like 2020.
Right.
I came back to Ontario in 2019. But yeah, with the conversation that I've been having with G4 Jag is, you know, I want to finish some of these commitments that I have, and he's feeling the same. High Hopes and Lucid Dreams is the follow up to Burial Plots and Pyramid Schemes.
Okay.
So that's going to be kind of like, I feel like a bookend in a way. And then I would like to explore, for lack of a better way of putting this, is mainstream. You know, this, I'm using very generalized terms here for
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
but just experimenting more with, you know, compositions, live instrumentation, sequencing that is more radio friendly, if you will. Like, I'll use My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy as an example. Before that, Kanye sound was very backpack underground, and then he hit that, and it was like, whoa, you know what I mean? There's still those boom bap hip hop elements, but there was like bridges, there was interludes, there was reprises, all those things, and that's where I would like to go.
I feel like he started working with more like live instruments at that time too. Have you worked with actual like musicians? Do you ever get guys playing samples for you?
A little bit. I've had artists. I reach out and I've had people play some live piano for me. I give them a general idea. Some guitar. I try and use guitar solos. That's something I picked up from Kanye actually.
Yeah.
I feel like hip hop and rap actually use more guitar solos than rock and roll does this, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But I know the first track I experimented with guitar solo was on Junk's album, Together in Pieces, the EP we did together on the intro track. And then, like I was saying before about a signature, the whole song is just like this drumless sample with a choir. And then at the end, I bring in this guitar solo and then end it with some hi-hats. And it was, you know, very fun playing with that and adding that extra little element. It really just, it takes it from here to here.
Yeah.
Like, it really does.
So, dude, I feel like you've been talking a lot about different like full-length projects that you've made, and kind of, you know, the building of a project so that it escalates throughout and the sound swells up by the end of it or whatever. Do you find that there's something lacking when people just want to make a single with you? Like, I mean, make a song with you and release it as a song? Would you rather be making complete albums all the time?
No, it really depends. I mean, I like the journey of building an album for sure, but it's time consuming. It's definitely time consuming. There's also a lot of artists I would like to work with, and there's not enough time.
Yeah.
And so singles are totally, I'm fine with that. It a lot of it comes down to strategy as well. I feel like as independent artists, we have a lot of freedom, but we're also still bound by some like algorithm
things. I was
things.
just gonna say, we're all fighting that same algorithm, man. You got to figure out how to beat that beast first. Yeah.
Like releasing with every 2 weeks, like you actually can't, like even if you had enough music to release every single week, it screws you over because you can't submit for release radar until every 2 weeks. So it's like you're within, you're even though you're independent, like you still haven't fully released the shackles. Now I know a lot of artists are like, well, you know, fuck it, I'm just going to release on Bandcamp, I'm just going to release on my own platform. The issue is you're now only relying on your social media platform.
Yeah.
Like I will say, from Spotify, I have gained an audience of people who probably wouldn't have heard my music otherwise. So at this point for myself, I'm not willing to throw that away. I'm within the system, you know, minding my P's and Q's, but wanting to break out at the same time. So
yeah, man. So you've worked with a ton of different artists, both Canadian and international artists, kind of with like some bigger names or whatever. But you mentioned there, and it was something I wanted to ask maybe later in the interview. I was planning it, but we'll get to it right now. Are there Canadian artists who you still want to work with? Like who are you still looking to make music with? You haven't worked with.
So Toronto actually, Toronto has a booming underground Renaissance sound, if you will.
For real.
I've got more music on the way with Asun Eastwood, which I'm very excited about. We have a project, a full length project called I Am That I Am.
Oh, beautiful, man. He's one of my favorite MCs in Canada. I would say. I mean,
Very,
favorite
very
MCs worldwide too. I mean, that guy,
yeah.
yeah, he's got chops that can go up against anybody for sure.
New Villain and King Bondolero are two.
Yeah.
I've got some music in the works already with Sazy. Sazy's a very dope lyricist who deserves his flower. He's been doing it a minute.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, yeah. He's starting to produce too. So, I mean,
I heard some. We stopped by his place, and I heard some. He's really artistically inclined. You know what I mean?
He seems super motivated. He's one of those guys dropping every couple weeks. I think actually right now he's trying to drop every week. So what you were saying there with trying to get on Release Radar, doesn't Release Radar just show people, everybody who they're following? Like I follow all these Canadian artists, and that's how I stay up to date to make After the Smoke is Clear every week, is like anything anybody drops, it pops up on my Release Radar, doesn't it? Do people have to apply for Release Radar?
Yes and no. I think sometimes the algorithm will still pick it up, but if you actually go into Spotify for artists, music, upcoming, and then whatever upcoming songs you have, it will list it. And then you submit that for editorial. And then on the bottom, it says, please submit your song 2 weeks prior to hit Release Radar. So it's really important to do that. Now, I've heard people don't do it and it still picks it up. But here's the thing, like, if they're asking for it, I'm going to, like I said, I'm in the system, hating the system, but I'm working the system within.
You got to play the game. Yeah.
Exactly. So if they're saying submit it, I'm submitting it. And any artist I'm working on with collab, I'm like, have you done this yet? Have you done this yet? And people know I'm very adamant about, making sure we hit the right things and do the right things. Well, and that's where I've seen success from.
Yeah. And I think since I curate a show every week, I'm maybe a bit of an anomaly in that I actually do hit follow on like every artist whose music I want to hear. So maybe that's more for people who are, normal and aren't following a bunch of different artists. Maybe it'll still pop up on their Release Radar if it's something close to artists that they do like or something along those lines.
Well, here's one thing. I mean, I forget what the statistic is of how much music is being uploaded every single day.
120,000 a day, 120,000 songs a day. Yeah.
There you go. So if you have, and they actually have legit editors like screening some of these music, right? They do have like a robotic algorithm as well. But if you have someone physically looking at it, who are you more likely to look at and show love to? The person who took the time to make a pitch and send it to you, or someone who's just like, here's my uploaded song.
Hope you find it. Yeah.
Please make me famous. So that's why I suggest to absolutely everyone out there is if you're not doing Spotify for Artists editorial pitch, you're missing the boat.
Hell yeah, man. How about this, dude? When you make beats, are you the type of producer who's like just constantly making beats every day or, on a very regular basis like that, and then just kind of loads them all into a vault and, passes them out to artists as is necessary? Or are you making beats with a particular artist in mind some of the time?
It's organized chaos. So my whole thing is I love music. I have an iTunes catalog or whatever, a library of over 80,000 songs. That's just like soul albums, prog rock albums, like just over time downloaded, collected. It's all on an external hard drive. I pray that hard drive doesn't burn out.
Back it up, man. Back it up. I've got my music library on 2 different external hard drives, just in case.
At least 10 to 15 minutes every day. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying I'm making beats during that time, but like I'm listening for samples. I have an organization system in my iTunes where I star each one and I have folders down the side for instruments and sounds. So if an artist hits me up like, yo, do you have any piano beats like this? I hit the piano folder, I hit shuffle, and I have 5 stars on them. And it's like,
those are ones you've heard a sample in that could be used.
But I don't necessarily want to work on it right away. So I'm not necessarily making beats every single day, but I'm doing something for my music career every single day, even if it's 10, 15 minutes. Because the way I look at it is 10, 15 minutes. That's 10, 15 minutes someone else didn't do. And that's going to put me ahead. Not that it's a race with other people. It's more against myself. It's like that's 10, 15 minutes ahead of the game I am against the previous myself. So
that makes sense, man. Well, and with 120,000 songs going online every day or whatever, it is a bit of a race against other people, whether we want to acknowledge it and think of it that way or not. I mean, it's a ton of competition, whether we're thinking about it or not, I guess is, yeah, the lesson there. But dude, are there, well, I wanted to ask you, what is the title, Burial Plots and Pyramid Schemes? Um, where'd you come up with that one, man? Like, that's a real interesting title to me.
So as a producer, when you're sitting here making beats, sometimes it's hard not to like kind of come up with some raps in your head or pretend to rap, like to hear like a flow on it.
Okay.
So one day, I had the idea, plots and schemes is like a common like idiom or a phrase, like,
Yeah.
oh, he's plotting and scheming. So then I had the idea, well, what if I put burial, what goes in front of those? Burial goes in front of plots, pyramid goes in front of schemes. And then it worked into high hopes and lucid dreams. So that's hopes and dreams. Plot and scheme,
Man.
hope and dream, burial
Nice,
plots
dude.
and pyramid schemes, lucid. Yeah,
You're halfway to being a rapper right now, man. You all that was bars right there. Yeah. Have you ever gotten on the mic? You ever rapped like that?
Not rap per se. When Junk was doing some of his freestyle cipher sessions in Vancouver, I would go to support and I would jump in. There is Junk's heard some of my bars, not recently. I think I put it away a little bit more, but back then he was pushing me and urging me. Like we were on a radio show together. He's like, "Yo, rap," and I was like, "No, I can't do it."
Yeah, that's pressure on the radio, man. Shit.
But I think it's just the way my mind works is like I almost see like the mathematical formula in it. Like when I listen to guys like Mickey Fax, like Junk, that I can see, and then like Kendrick, he is another one. I can see the mathematical formula in the words and the wordplay, and I really love that.
Yeah.
And you kind of like trace it, and you're like, oh, that's how he got there, and I really like that idea. I think if I didn't put as much time into beat making and producing, maybe I would, in another lifetime, I was a rapper. But for now, it's just,
Fair
beats.
enough, man. Yeah, stay in your lane, I guess, right? And you're finding traction in that lane, so yeah, I don't know how much a guy needs to expand beyond or whatever, for sure. How about are you classically musically trained? Like you read sheet music or play any instruments other than a sampler?
Nah, I'll say this. I think I've said it somewhere before, but my genius is not like a musical genius. My genius when it comes to music is I'm a problem solver. I always have been. And even since I was a kid, teachers would they would tell my parents and that this is like he's a problem solver. This is his like genius, his intelligence. So for me, it's when I hear a sample. My brain has databased and categorized other samples and other beats like that. So it's like the gears are going and I can hear the end beat. So that's why I have so many samples that like it's dope, but it's not something I'm working on because I hear the outcome and it's not the outcome that I need.
Yeah.
So I really treat it like that. So my musical genius is not musical genius at all. It's just that I'm a problem solver and I know how to get from point A to point B and get that finished product. And that's why I like to wear the hat of a producer versus a beat maker because I'm not just sitting here making beats, handing it off. I'm, producing a song typically from start to finish. And, I'm helping with the artwork. I'm helping with the release strategies, and I'm really taking that song from the start point to the finish. There are cases where, I make a beat and I hand it off but for the most part, I'm a producer.
You seem like a guy who's really in touch with the whole like industry side of things. Like you've already talked about having contracts right and kind of marketing strategies and, the Spotify tip you gave. Is your marketing strategy right now to work with a bunch of different artists? Is that kind of part of the how to get your name out there scheme?
I think that's one of the more subtle ones, but I mean, like it's underlying and just knowing and understanding. But I think the main thing to be clear is I just like dope artists and I like working with them and I like almost like collecting Pokemon. Like I'm a fan. You can see my vinyl collection over here. It's like I'm a fan and a student of this first and foremost. And I'll say that like I collect art, vinyl. I'll buy records.
That Iron Man I can see behind you there on the shelf.
Yeah, Jay-Z, Magna Carta. You got Conway. I can kind of see in there.
Beautiful.
But being a fan first and foremost is I want to work with these artists because I think they're dope. And to me, having them on one of my beats is like is like someone getting something, an autograph. You know what I mean? To me, that's like the highest honor of someone that I really like, is having them rap on my on one of my songs, on one of my beats.
Dope, man. Can I ask you, what's the most annoying or toughest thing with working with so many different artists? Like, I feel like you must be sending files out in all directions at all times, and it's got to be a bit of a headache in some aspects, right?
Communication is can be a tough thing, and everyone has different communication skills and styles. And so when you're sending out a beat and like someone's like, yeah, this is dope, in my head, okay, they're dope, and I have an organization system where I take it out of my main folder and I put it in their folder. Well, now it's been a year and a half and they haven't done shit with it. And I'm like, yo, what's up with it? Oh, yo, I'm still doing it. Now it's another year and a half. And I'm like, yo, I got to repo that. I'm taking that shit back. Like,
Right.
shit with it. That's frustrating to me. It's just communication is can be challenging. But, you know, in my day-to-day job, like I don't do music full time. I'm a media solutions consultant is the fancy name I have, which is it's really just sales. But I have to work with clients all day, and I have to be, you know, efficient and like, hey, I need your artwork for this. I need this. And so you just kind of have to learn and have to understand how people communicate and how to approach artists. You know, I know that there's certain artists I can approach one way, and then there's other artists I can be like upfront, direct. They're not going to get feelings caught. You know what I mean? And other artists I have to be like, today's not the day. I'm going to wait until Monday. And you know what I mean? Like there's
take some deep breaths and figure out how to, word this like a business email or whatever, so that nobody feels like their toes are being stepped on a little bit, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, man. So dude, congrats on the Forest City London Music Award that you won there just a little while ago. I saw it on your social media. I noticed, so you quoted Kanye when you were up there. You said people wondered, you know, what I would do if I lost, and I guess we'll never know, or whatever, that speech. And you've mentioned Kanye a couple times. Was Kanye a big influence on you coming up?
Kanye's definitely been a big influence, and like more so than sound even. And I tell people this a lot, is the thing with me and Kanye, it's like, whatever Kanye says he's going to do, he does it. If he says he's going to run for president, he's running for president. Whatever he says, and that is the mentality I needed and need to have to get to where I want to go. Is you have to have this overconfident, you know, knowing that you're going to do it, like that you are the one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so for me, that is the biggest thing, and why I hold Kanye in such high regard. Is it's like that level I hold myself to where I would like to go. And so quoting that speech, people, you know, people that know me and know my, you know, how I view Kanye understood that. Like the red suit was like when Kanye did his 2010 VMA performance. That's why I wanted to wear the red suit. Now, a lot of people said Suge Knight, whatever, I'll take it. But I didn't think a deep V-neck was appropriate in 2024, so I just rocked it straight. But, you know, it was an ode to Kanye. And
I don't know if it was appropriate when Kanye did it either, man. I
don't even know if American Apparel is still around to get a deep V.
Right.
But I posted on social media just that clip. And this was, so when I sat down in the seats before I won, I wasn't sure if I was going to win, but I was like, what if I do win? I need to figure out a speech. So I closed my eyes and I visioned myself walking up from start to finish. And I'll post the full speech soon, but I did a few things from a marketing perspective. One, I'm new in London, and none of these people, majority of these people in this room, they're not just hip hop. It was all different genres. They don't know who I am. So I did a call and return. I was like, yo, because I'm a producer, DJ, I'm usually behind. I don't get to do this. So when I say can you all say Imperativ? And I did the call and return. Yep. Now I'm the guy in the red suit, the only guy in the red suit, and you just said my name. So now they know my name. So then I said, you know, a lot of people have complimented me on my suit. This is an ode to one of my favorite music producers, Kanye West. And that's how I transitioned into that piece.
Did half the people boo? He's fairly polarized at this point.
There's a lot of older musicians rock, and like I don't think they knew.
Right.
It's like so, but it was for me just do that. You know what I mean? Because this is the first award I've ever won. It's very cool. I'm very honored. You know, shout out to the Force City London Music Awards. But I knew in my head that I'd be able to post that clip. And what's crazy is the next day, the NBA Finals, I forget the player's name, but after they won the championship, he quoted the speech too the very next day.
Damn, man.
And so that went on social media, and I was like, damn, I got to get mine up there now. So I did it as a meme. You know, I put when you channel your inner Kanye West, and then I put the quote at the bottom. Now, here's the thing. It got a ton of views, and a lot of people were hating too. And I had to I had to be like, yo, like the hate is engagement, and it's only allowing more people to see it. But the people that know me know why I did that and know why it was funny, but it also meant something to me.
Yeah.
And I am paying tribute and homage. So there was multiple layers to it.
For real, man. So, man, I also, when I was looking at your social media, I always, you know, take a quick scroll through people's socials before these things. And I saw you were talking about like how you want to get artists paid, how you've been fighting behind the scenes to help artists get paid properly. And dude, like from where I'm sitting, I'm like, are you a lawyer or something? Like how are you like, what does that fight behind the scenes look like? How, what's actually happening? What are you doing?
So I can't talk fully about it. I will talk some about it. I'm definitely not a lawyer, but it came from I owe it to another person I'm working with. I think we're actually going to be starting a podcast. So on Facebook, we run a Facebook group called Rap Career Growth. And in that, we provide a lot of information for artists, not just rappers, but we call it Rap Career Growth to you know, really market it.
Yeah.
But we're going to start a podcast. And I think I owe it to him to tell the full story with him because he helped me there.
Fair enough.
But how it all started is I realized I was not getting paid royalties on a certain platform. And I started digging and I started getting, no, it's all good. I was like, no, it's not all good. So it was about a 1.5 year battle of going. And then my partner that I'm talking about is Kyle Kraft in Rap Career Growth. He managed to get a hold of someone at one of the royalty companies, Sound Exchange, off LinkedIn. And explain the situation. And they were like, yeah, that's not right. And so they are now implementing a change so that platform will now start properly paying.
So now, not just a change to help you, but they're changing their entire platform to pay out properly to more artists. Okay, that's dope, man.
Now I haven't fully seen it in action yet. I haven't released as much music this year, but I usually get a lot of my music played on this platform. I'm very, very carefully dodging my words here. So once I do, I'll have to see how it works out because I asked the person at Sound Exchange, like, how am I going to know? Because it took me 1.5 years and you're telling me I still can't get those back royalties. There's like about $10,000 in royalties I'm owed myself.
Damn.
That's just me. Like calculate all the other artists on that platform. It's a lot of money. So I still have a battle to go to try and figure out those past royalties because 10 grand, it's not a lot, but it's a lot.
Yeah,
that could fund an album. Like and
for real, it's enough, man. It's enough. You want it in your pocket if it's owed to you. That's for damn sure.
I mean, burial plots and pyramid schemes that cost over 10K. And I'm just an indie artist. That's coming out of my own pocket, of my own investment. So if I had those royalties, that allows me to do the other one. You know what I mean? The next album, the next project. So that's what it is in the background is working to get artists properly paid from a platform. And I don't think it was by fault to anyone. I just don't think they knew. You know what I mean? I think.
I mean, it sounds like they're pretty genuinely trying to help artists if they're going to make that change to their entire platform. Because like you said, there's got to be a bunch of money that they owe to a bunch of different artists. If, you know, I feel like a lot of platforms would try to just pay you and hope you keep it quiet or whatever, right? Like pay the people that complain.
A little bit more context, I guess, like there's the platform and then there's the organization that gets the royalties for artists on artists' behalf. So
Sure.
We're talking to that organization that helps get the royalties from that platform. So
is that SOCAN? Like the organization that gets royalties? Is that SOCAN? Because I also saw you talk about your biggest ever SOCAN payment.
SOCAN is one of the organizations. So I use myself personally, and there's a lot of people out there who use different things. I use SOCAN for my performance rights. I use SongTrust for some of my publishing admin, and then I use Sound Exchange. So those are the three that I use myself personally to get the royalties. I may be missing some. This industry is very difficult to follow. I
Right.
feel like Trump there. This industry is very difficult.
Yeah, a little bit. You got the hand motions down, yeah. Dude, so we'll switch up topics from that industry stuff. How about this? Are you a producer who cares what people say over your beats? Does it matter to you? Like you've said, you know, you like working with dope artists, but like, would you ever ask, well, and you also mentioned that, you know, you wouldn't expect somebody to ask Alchemist to change something in the beat for them. Would you ever ask somebody to change their bars on one of your tracks?
Ooh, possibly. I would have a conversation. I wouldn't necessarily. I'm big on conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I will present. Hey, in this you say this. Why are you saying? You know what I mean? Like don't like this is offensive or this might be taken out of context. You know, for example, there was I don't think this is. Yeah, there was one lyric on something, or it was a title, and I was like, I can't go further. Sorry,
it's just a title was a little bit too edgy for your liking, and you got it.
wasn't even edgy. It was just history. You know what
Okay,
I mean? And it wasn't even necessarily me. It was person. It was just me thinking about all this woke America, like people like canceling Aunt Jemima. Like
sure.
I was like, how are people going to take this in this day and age? You know what I mean? To me, I don't think anything of it. I don't think anyone in this will take it. But what if
But they
someone's
could.
like,
Yeah. Okay.
so that was more it. But for me, if there's something in there, you know,
Well, even as far as not cancel culture or whatever, like what if it was just bars that you know, thought could be doper or whatever? Like, have you ever approached that way?
I haven't. I mean, I used to work with artists in the studio as well. I used to do a lot more recording. I'm doing less, but I used to have to. There were some artists I'd be like, "Yo, like white artists like to do this. They like to throw a lot more syllables, a lot more words in there than they have to." And I'd be like,
Sure.
"Yo, cut out cut out the. You don't need that. It just flows better." Um, no offense to my white rappers out there. I work with a lot of dope white rappers.
No, that's what we call rapidy rap, I believe. The guys that just are putting as many syllables in as they can to try to be rap god or whatever.
But
Yeah.
no, I'll bring it up. I'll be like, yo, I think this could be better, or if I really think. But I really try to work with artists that I trust, and I don't have to do that.
Yeah. Guys who
Like,
are dialed in enough that they're not gonna fuck it up.
I trust their, as an artist, I try and give the other artists I work with enough creative freedom. If someone buys a beat, and they do, I'll give. You have to have a bit of a separation from yourself.
Yeah.
You can't necessarily get too involved because it's theirs. And now I say that I'm there and I am there, but you have to be mindful and you have to be careful of where that line is, because if you get too involved, you're opening a can of worms that you might not want to go.
Yeah. Well, I've talked to a lot of different artists, and I've asked them about, like, what if somebody asks you to change your bars? And I think the consensus is that MCs do not like that. They want to say what they want to say. Typically, it's touchy.
MCs definitely don't, but I mean, if a bar doesn't make sense, because I mean, you see those videos going around on social media now and be like, yo, this bar does not make sense. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Why didn't homie in the studio be like, yeah, if it was something like that, be like, nah, that ain't it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Did you mean this word instead of that word? Yeah.
I think there's one, like Kanye says, bring up Kanye again. He's like the 300s in the Romans, but it's not the Romans. It's the, right?
Yeah.
And it's like that bar does not make sense.
Yeah. Fair enough. And that'll happen sometimes because people just start making references or whatever.
Exactly.
How's about... Okay, so I know that everybody hates on AI music creation at this point. We're all worried about AI coming in and, knocking down a lot of people's jobs and making it so that the billionaires own everything. The whole BBL Drizzy beat thing being made off of an AI sample raised this question about, like, is it okay to have AI make you something to sample? And I wanted to put that to a couple of producers and see what they thought about that. Because I saw people talking about it online and was like, that's interesting. I wonder.
I'm interested and curious to try it because I mean there is a lot. I sample a lot of music, and at some point, if I reach a higher level of success, a lot of my music might be in question and it might get taken down. You know what I mean?
So it's a way to avoid sample clearances.
That's my thoughts. And I mean, I'm sampling already, so I'm using you know, I'm using copyrighted music in mine. And so if I'm using, so the argument with the AI is, for example, when they said to BBL Drizzy, the input was something like, you know, make me take these song lyrics and make it sound like a Motown, whatever.
Right.
So by
I was wondering if I needed to give that backstory or not, but you just did. So perfect. Yeah.
So using the term Motown is a copyright, and that is a sound. So that's where the issue comes in. But I think that's a comparison. That's the same thing as a type beat. Like when I say I'm making an Alchemist type beat, a lot of people get that all screwed up. I'm not like, I'm going to make an Alchemist beat today. I made a beat and I'm like, marketing wise, it sounds like it could be an Alchemist beat. Yeah. I'm going to put an Alchemist type beat for the search engine optimization.
Exactly. You got to tell the optimizer that it sounds like something, right? So
exactly. So for artificial intelligence, I have to tell it to sound like something. So what am I going to tell it? Soul, Motown, you know what I mean? And then it scans the archives of the sound that's available to it. And, you know, it's building off of that. So I feel that's it's like a very large reach. I don't think that they're wrong. I'm not saying they're wrong. I think it's a very large reach, but AI just has that capacity. For me, I'm very interested to be like, hey, I need a soul loop at 68 BPMs with a xylophone and piano and see what it comes up with. Yeah. Maybe it's dope. Maybe it's not.
I still haven't found the AI that people use to do that or whatever. I haven't looked for it, but I'm also not a beat maker. So, you know, I'm not a producer.
I think it presents a great opportunity right now too. And I've seen one artist, Mo Dirt from Vancouver, experiment with it. I didn't dig deeper to see how it went, but he took one of his songs and I think he used the same AI that they use for the BBL Drizzy, and that's a YouTube social media piece of content now. Is check out the Mo Dirt song in the sound of whatever, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I think it's a way that you can give legs to your music, like you can, and for social media purposes, really, and marketing purposes. Because if someone's seeing that name, well, if this is the Motown version of this song, I want to hear what the regular version songs. And now you're possibly funneling people back to your music. I think there's also AI. Here's a positive thing with AI. Is it Beanie Siegel who lost his voice?
Yeah. He got shot in the lung or whatever. Now he breathes on one lung. Yeah.
So he is using AI to learn all of his old vocals, and he will rap now with his voice. I've heard him rap with his voice on Conway, and you can tell a significant difference, but he will rap, but then by using AI, it will beef up his voice to sound like Beanie Siegel that we know.
Man, I hadn't thought about that, but the DOC could be another one that does that because he got in a car accident and got glass right through his larynx or something and hasn't been able to talk the same. Yeah.
And that's like a prosthetic limb. You know what I mean? I think that's a great thing. The other thing I've been saying is I think if artists need to figure out how to copyright it right away, I just saw that a company is allowing artists to do this, but I think artists should get away from a company doing it and figure out how to do it themselves, build their own team. Think someone like Jay-Z, think someone like Kanye, Snoop. If they train an AI and they own that, their estate owns that and copyrights that, even after they pass, they could still release new songs. You know what I mean?
Right.
It may not be that authentic, traditional, but we already know it's going there. Like there's no stopping it. Like if you can look at a future, you know it's going there. So why not get ahead of the curve, own that shit so no one else can do it? And then if someone does try and artificially AI use your voice and mimic it, your estate can be like, take that down. And then you have control over it. You know what I mean? I'd say get ahead of it myself personally.
That's smart, man. I've heard, you know, the labels are now getting new artists to sign that right away so that they, you know, go off and can make music with that person's voice or whatever, as long as they've signed the contract, which is crazy to me, but you know, that's how technology is advancing.
It's a brave new world out there.
Yeah, right. How about like pre-made drum breaks. How do you feel about those, man? I see people marketing them online. You know, certain guys have blown up just like selling drum breaks. Do you fuck with
I
that?
did, I did a drum kit once, Gutter Drums Volume 1. I think it was a cool thing because it was all sounds that I use myself. Now I did it in a, I don't know, not unique, but I just did it in the way I wanted to do. So I find a lot of sounds. If like I'm listening to a sample and I just hear a snare, I quickly trim it and I put it in a folder. If I hear just a hi-hat, I trim it and put it in a folder. So it's all sounds that I have in my own catalog. So and I call it gutter drums because the sound I'm known for is that grimy gutter boom bap. So it's all sounds. So if you like my sound and what I do, here's a bunch of folders. Then what I did was I took classic break beats, like the Amen break, and I used something where it actually picked out the MIDI from the drum break, but then I then filled the MIDI in with my own sounds.
Okay,
So
that's dope. So you
it's a
can
unique
change
way.
up the break to different
Yeah,
actual drums. Okay.
and then I included the MIDI so that people could like pick and choose whatever, and then it's in sequence. It was something different. I tried it. I've been meaning to do a volume 2, but it's really tedious. It's really boring. You're just listening to a kit, and it's like
Yeah.
I haven't been able to get into that mindset again to finish it.
Fair enough, man. So there's a segment to this show that I always do with different guests, where I ask the same list of questions. How important is this or that? Just so that I can make kind of like a montage of different artists' opinions on the same topics. But for you as a producer, it's going to be a little bit different. You know, a lot of the questions I ask guys are like specifically about emceeing, but this one is one that I asked them, but I also asked like Fresh Kills about this because he's a guy who will go on stage and play samples. But how important is a live show for a producer?
I think live shows are becoming more important. I don't think it depends on what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
For myself, I'm trying to market myself as an artist. And when I say an artist, like I'm in front of the people, like I have my own Spotify account. Alchemist is one to compare to. Fresh Kills is definitely one to compare to. Static Selecta, you know what I mean? Those guys have their own brands around their names,
Right.
and that's what I'm trying to do myself. So I started doing some live performance. I'm not a finger drummer like Fresh Kills. I can play some pads. I actually took a course from Fresh Kills, but I just haven't been able to expand on it more. But I am in that mentality and mind state of elevating my skill level to get to that point. I have ideas for a live show. I think it's great if you want to be in front of those people, just like a rapper, an artist going to a show and being able to have merch, being able to meet the people.
Yeah.
You become more than just like the person behind a screen.
Well, a lot of the time the producer's kind of faceless, not necessarily nameless, but faceless. You know, like a lot of people couldn't picture a lot of different producers. I mean, unless they're real hip hop heads who are really digging for it or whatever. But yeah,
it's part of a brand, and I think that's something like I did competitive snowboarding before, and taking photos for magazines and social media and videos. That was part of snowboarding. So I think I was able to carry that over.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be a male model by any means, but I have no problem being in front of a camera, knowing that it's a marketing piece and that's where that symbiotic relationship comes in with Imperetiv and Nate Butcher, right? Like Nate Butcher's like, nah, I don't really want to, but like,
yeah.
I know that Imperetiv that's a brand and it needs to be there.
Yeah. There has to be the visual element of the brand as well for people to connect to better anyways. How about getting grants? Is that important for a producer, or is it kind of the MC's problem who's paying for the beats? Like,
I think it's important. I was awarded the artist development grant by Factor. That was $2,000, but that was $2,000 that went into, at the time, I believe I was working on burial plots and pyramid schemes, but that's $2,000 I didn't have.
Right.
I was talking to Lozen, female artist, very, very dope, very talented, very business savvy as well. One of the most business savvy people I've talked to. But we from time to time we'll connect. And I was breaking it down to her is because she mentioned that she had kind of taken away from her social media and putting more time here. And I just mentioned that, she may want to, she has to find out what's most important to her. Is getting the grant most important? Maybe you decide not to do this grant, and then you put that time and effort into your social media, and maybe you have a more balance, right? So it's all of what's important to you. To me, I will look at it. I will look at some, but it's not like my entire time is going into that.
Right.
I use that, bringing back this AI word. A lot of the grants I've been applying for lately, I've used AI to help me answer the questions, because my time is money. Time is valuable. I don't have a lot. I work a 9-to-5 job. So if there's a grant and I'm like, fuck, this thing wants like 10 pages of questions, like I don't have time to do that. I don't have money to pay a grant writer. AI's there. Hey, here's me. Here's all my information. Based on this information, help me answer this question. Boom, boom. It gives me a starting point.
Yeah.
I'm like, I like that idea. I like this idea. I like that idea. Put it over here. Rewrite it.
Yeah, beautiful, man. Can I ask you just quick, like, what does artist development actually look like? I've seen, I look at the Factor grant list or whatever some years, and I saw like one artist got 20K for a fucking artist development grant, and I was like, what do you even like? What actually has to be done to get that grant? What is he telling them he's going to spend it on? Like singing lessons, or like what is development for an artist?
I mean, singing lessons may actually fall into there. There's all different things. It's like networking, so showcasing, your marketing. So I think the one thing that allowed me to win the 2000 is I had an idea, which I didn't actually even wasn't able to follow through on, but it was a marketing campaign idea. And I put like, that's what I wanted to do. And it was really, you could say that you're using the money for, Facebook ads. You've been watching Indiepreneur and you really like their fan finder program and you want to implement that. So you're going to use the money to that. That will help you grow your fan base from here to here. So artist development is really anything. What's going to take you from where you are and develop you into a more well-known, well-rounded artist to be successful in the industry.
But spending money on ads directly can be a line item in there.
Yeah, they usually have it broken down into different sections like showcasing, travel, live performance, marketing. So they break it down for you, and then you usually have to fill out some paragraphs for each one that you're going to, would like to do.
Cool. Couple more of these how important questions for you, man. How important is it for a producer to work with local rappers?
I think it's important because you see a lot, like, it's not the most important, but I think it's important to build locally and abroad. You will never be champion in your home city. And like, I always try and think in more of an international, and that's why I started working with more international artists. I still think it's to have a name and respect within your local scene as well. I go out to a lot of shows and I've had people be like, yo, why are you still DJing these shows? And there's dope artists there. There's dope talent. The thing I think that stops them is they don't know how to go further. Now, I can't help everyone, right? And like, be like, oh, well, you got to do this grant. You got to do this and that. I'll give tidbits in that. But I genuinely, I'm here.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm going to be sitting here in my apartment. Why not go to a live show? Why not DJ for them? Why not work with some of them? Here in London, I haven't released any music with anyone yet. I have worked with Eli the Prophet. We're working on some stuff. There's an artist here, Kodo, Jux Kane. There's a few artists I would like to work with. But in my niche, in my sound, I have to be very careful and particular and curate it properly for what I'm trying to create in my brand, if that makes sense.
Right.
And that's why with the internet, you can be a little bit more selective. It's like you have the Sears catalog of rappers on Instagram. You can be like, you can find next to anyone on there, and the sound. So, using online, you can really like find what you need there versus having to do local. But I still think it's important to work with your local artists, to have that level of respect and trust as like, this person does care. Like if I didn't have that, I probably wouldn't have won the Forest City London Music Award. People were like, but I think people respected the fact that I did win that because I am out at the scene. I am like, doing things to support the scene here. but at the same time, I'm doing bigger things.
You're wider than just the scene. Yeah, totally, man. How about this, dude? I have a guess on how you're going to answer this, but how important is making music that fits current trends?
It can be beneficial for sure if you're trying to catch a wave. You know, I battle this with myself is, you know, this comes back to what we were talking about, battling the algorithm.
Yeah.
And I want this shit, like, when I say I want this shit bad, I'm not talking about fame. I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about being successful to the level of being able to make music every single day of my life and support myself. That's what I mean. But I want it that bad to do that I would be willing to sacrifice at time to you know, and I did it at one point. I haven't done anything recent, but where there was the whole Lil Nas X country rap. Right. I came across a sample around the same time, and I was like, you know what? This is trending. I'm going to try, see if it works. It didn't really work for me. You know, I got some views on YouTube, but I was like, you know, I don't feel like I'm sacrificing my artistic integrity that much, but I'm willing to see what happens with if the algorithm will pick this up or not. Ultimately, the type of sound I make is that boom bap, which is that classic rap, that underground renaissance that I'm doing. I focus more on the sound that I want to, more than current trends personally now, but I'm not against it. I understand it.
Well, and even there, we mentioned that there was a resurgence of that sound. So it is a little more trendy than it was 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
So I'm going to say, for me, it's not important to the level, but it's there. It's hovering.
Yeah, fair enough, man. I didn't realize that you used to live in Vancouver, that you had roots out on the West Coast as well. Where are you from originally, dude?
Born in Ontario. My family moved around a lot. I was actually living in London, Ontario before I moved to Vancouver. And then I wasn't making music yet when I lived in Ontario. So a lot of times I say my hometown is Vancouver when it comes to music, because now I get to talk about the whole story.
Sure.
I moved to Vancouver for snowboarding, had a snowboard accident, left snowboarding and started getting into music. So my music started in Vancouver. So when I say my hometown is Vancouver, I'm saying that musically is my hometown. I spent 11 years in Vancouver, which is longer than I lived in any other city in Ontario. But now I'm back in London, Ontario after being away for 13 years or so.
Nice, man. Yeah, I just asked because I like to ask people, how important is an artist's physical location? Because I know a lot of people, like in Alberta especially, have moved to Vancouver or Toronto or wherever else, LA, chasing the music dream because they feel like there's no hope out of, you know, this place or that place.
I think it depends on you as a person. It's not as important these days with the internet because I think you can do a lot from where you are. Yeah. But on that same note, I was thinking about it today is because if I was down in New York, if I was able to get down there more, even, I think I would be even more successful than I am now.
Right.
It's there's something to be said about putting that name to that face, to shaking that hand, to meeting that you know, that transfer of energy of like when you're like, yo, what up, man?
For real.
You understand someone more than just through a screen.
A Zoom call is a little bit better than just texting back and forth or whatever, but it's still not quite the actual vibe of like meeting somebody in person. Definitely.
I know G4 Jag said this about our relationship and working on music is the reason why it took so long for him and I to get a project in full is because as an artist, how he works is he prefers to work with someone that's there.
Right.
Now, I think as years have passed, we've you know, built on that, and he knows me more, and we've met in person now as well. And we have two bodies of work, one which is just me and him, and then one that's me, him, and another artist from Rochester. But it took a long time to get there and a lot of understanding. And maybe it would have been a lot quicker if I had been able to be down there, you know what I mean, and make those trips there. But I see some producers down there, and I envy them because they are down there, and they're going between Philly and New York and Buffalo and Rochester because it's all that
couple
East Coast.
Hours drive. Everybody's close.
They're at all the events, and I envy them because I do see them. They're making those introductions. They're making those handshakes, and so I think it can be important But I think you can do a lot from home as well. You know, so it doesn't matter if you're in Vancouver, if you're in. I think I don't know. I think people are weird too about like credibility of like being from like. Uh, I'm from St. Thomas, Ontario, and I'm a hip hop producer.
Yeah.
Versus I'm from Toronto and I'm a hip hop producer.
Oh, trust
There's
me, I know. I'm doing a hip hop show at a Lethbridge, man. People are like, out of where now? What are we talking about? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. How about this, man? How important is it finding or having the right romantic partner? This one's throwing some people I've asked for a loop.
This is important, and this is why I'm single myself. So any ladies watching this, not just kidding. Because I've had a lot of partners where I think the initial thought was like, oh man, this is cool. He's a hip hop producer. But then when they get into it, they're like, yo, all he does is sit as a computer and work. Like he works like all the time.
Listening to snares for hours.
But I mean, I truly do work a lot, you know, because I care about my craft. And I care. This is my passion. The other thing is on social media. It's like, who's this girl liking your posts? And like I said, I don't want to be like, you know, I have to post photos of myself
Right.
for marketing. But then a woman will like that post, and then they were like, well, who's this woman? Well, she just bought $100 worth of merch that I'm now taking you out for dinner. Like, what? What are we talking about here? So I think it's very important to have the right romantic partner. And I think that's why I've still been holding out, because I'm selfish in the sense, right, that I'm still chasing after this. And if you're not willing to understand or be a part of that journey, then I'm not even willing to sacrifice my energy for that at this point. I've been through too much of it, and it's draining and it takes away.
Real talk, man. One question from Twitch chat here. Earlier, my homie DJ Dice asked, what DAW do you use?
I saw that. I use Machine, Native Instruments Machine, the software that comes with the controller. And then I also use Logic. Actually, let's back up. I do a very long, elongated process. It's probably longer than it has to be. I take my samples into Audacity. I pre-chop them in Audacity that I'm going to use. Then I bring it into Machine. I program it. I sequence it to a point. Then I bring it all into Logic, mix it, and sequence it further and build it there. So those are the three that I use: Audacity, Machine, and Logic.
Right on, man. So how important would you say that having specific gear or the right gear is for a producer?
Not important at all. I'll say this: you can have someone that writes a novel on a laptop, or you have someone that writes a novel on a typewriter. It all comes down to the writing. I know people that have said that they're still using Audacity to record their vocals. I've heard people still using Cool Edit to make beats.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think it's important. It's what your output is. Someone could be using what was that Mario game where you could make music?
I don't know, but I trust you. There is one, man. Yeah.
So I mean, if it sounds dope, it sounds dope. That's that problem solving. Get from your point A, get your point B. If it sounds dope,
yeah.
However you got there, it's irrelevant.
I agree, man. Okay, so last one for these how important things, and this is one that I thought of just listening to some of your music today, and I've never asked anybody else this, but how important is a producer drop at, or tag, or whatever you want to call it, at the start of a song for a producer? You've got the imperative or whatever at the start of all your tracks, right?
Hey, right there, the fact that you did it like that proves that it's important. A lot of people, I don't want to, I'm not going to put it on if I'm doing a project with Jay Roberts, for example, I'm not going to put it on every single song that's on a project. I usually put it on the singles that we're releasing, because those are going to come out first. Those are going to be, we're going to try on radio and that. And I want that slight little bit. And here's the thing: I've had artists ask me, like, I've told them they're like, yo, you didn't include your tag. Can I get your tag? I'm like, oh yeah. But I had a friend, he's like, oh man, I hate your tag. I'm like, why? He's like, it just gets stuck in my head. I'm like, that's exactly the point.
It means
and
it's doing what it's supposed to, yeah.
Exactly. So to me, it's important. It's branding, and for the level of success I have, I believe I've been able to achieve that through my branding and marketing. So
that's smart, man. Yeah, I agree completely. Like I said earlier, I think it seems like you're pretty savvy when it comes to some of the kind of strategy stuff, as well as the actual beat making and production skills too, man. You're killing it out there. So keep doing it. Before we wrap this up, though, I got a couple last questions that I ask everybody. Can you describe the local hip hop scene where you're at, London hip hop scene? Or for that matter, do you just rep Toronto? Like, does your bio say that you're in Toronto? Like,
I mean, a lot of things on social media, I post them in Toronto, but I also try and represent London as well because I am here. Going back to what we were talking about before I think if I just constantly said I was from Toronto, I wouldn't have the respect from a lot of the artists and other producers here in the city.
sure.
So I try to do a healthy balance because I do work with a lot of the Toronto artists. Like I said, Ason Eastwood, I just released something with Shea Uno. I've got some music with Falcon Outlaw. Those are all Toronto guys.
Yeah.
So I kind of say both. And I still kind of say Vancouver as well because I still rep Vancouver. That's where I started music. And I was there for many, many years.
Well, and if that's where you know a lot of the people on the scene, like, I lived in Edmonton for 12 years, so I know a lot of people up there on the hip hop scene, and yeah, same deal. I feel like I rep Edmonton from Lethbridge.
So to answer your question, London's scene is actually very, very similar to Vancouver's scene. Now, when I say that, Vancouver is obviously a larger city. It's a major city. The comparison I would make is London is a school city. There's Western, there's King's College, and then there's Fanshawe. So what that means is you have a lot of people that live here that don't live here.
Right.
They live
Seasonal.
in a bubble. Yeah. There's London, and then there's the London school, right? So there's all these people that live here. You're like, man, there's so many people here, and people like of the age group that probably like this stuff. Why aren't they at the shows? Where are they, right? And it's because they live in this bubble. And Vancouver is very similar because Vancouver is a melting pot of a city. You get a lot of people that go there, they live there for a couple of years, they leave. There's also Vancouver has the UBC. There is also, it's been a while now, but there's another college and a couple other schools as well, BCIT and another one. But because of that, the scene is smaller than you would think it would be, and it's kind of like isolated in a bubble. Now, Vancouver, I want to say, was starting to get very unified. I think some things have happened now where it's kind of like changed again. But scenes are always ever evolving. I think London's scene is evolving right now. I think not to toot my own horn, but I think I've maybe had a little bit of to do with that because I try supporting other people that aren't necessarily even in, like, as we know, hip hop has different subgenres now, right?
Yeah,
so I'll go support people that are more drill or, more trap. And I will do things like promote the Forest City London Music Awards, where some people who I think live here, and because of that, they almost take it for granted. And I think because I was new here, I was like, this is the only award show or like awards, city-based awards in Ontario, if not Canada. That is very cool. Like when I lived in BC, all you have is Breakout West. So that's like all of the West Coast. And other than that, what we have the Junos. So I think it is very commendable what they have done with this. It's the 22nd annual year. So I was like, fuck it. I'm going, like, this is dope. Thank you for the nomination. I'm going to promote this like I just got nominated for a Juno.
I'm getting a fancy suit. Yeah.
Exactly, right? So I think the scene is changing here. I think it's evolving. It will be exciting to see what happens. Yeah. But I find every scene has the same pitfalls. It's these subgenres don't know how to interact and coincide with each other. I reference a book to a lot of people, how music works. I can't remember the artist right now.
I've got that book. Yeah.
David Byrne.
David Byrne. That sounds pretty right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a white book. It's got like a little speaker icon on it. But there's a segment there it talks about building the punk scene in New York at CBGB's.
Yeah.
And I think if anyone is interested and really cares about their scene and would like to build their scene, go read that book. I posted the full segment of that on my Facebook because I thought it was that important. But it talks about that. But yeah,
it's a good book. I recommend that one too, definitely. How about some other artists from the scene that people should be up on? Feel free to go wider than London on this. Just preferably Canadian artists, I guess, that people should know.
I mean, the main people I work with for sure: Junk, Ason Eastwood, Falcon Outlaw, Shea Uno, New Villain, King Bandolero, Sazy, Plainclothes Ninja. That's Ashton Francis. Man,
you done any work with Danielson?
I have a track with Danielson on Barrel Plots and Pyramid Keys called Let's Ride. Raz Fresco is another one. Both
Yeah.
those dudes have done some stuff with DJ Muggs, very dope rappers.
Yeah. Res Fresco's super dope, man. That whole Baker's Club movement is popping.
Ayo Big. Well, it will be. I'm curious to see what happens, but Danielson just joined Umbrella, so I don't know if what's happening with Brown Bag Money. I'm not saying anything, but I'm just curious that now he's under Umbrella as well. But Ayo Biggs is another one.
Wait. I saw in a comment section earlier today, somebody said BB Umbrella on a Danielson post, and I was like, what does that mean? But now you're talking about he's on Umbrella, so what is Umbrella? What label is that? Who?
Umbrella's a crew, so that's Josiah the Gift, Mickey Diamond, Pro Dillinger,
Okay.
Snotty, and then they had some changes, but those are the ones I can think of off the top of my head. And then now Danielson.
Okay, yeah, nice, man. How about any plans for shows or tours or new music dropping that we can tell people to look out for coming up?
Yeah,
anything to plug?
so shows coming up. I've just got 3 locally in London. Coming up this Friday, I'm DJing the event for Choclair. Then
Nice.
on Monday for Canada Day, I'll be DJing for Eli the Prophet. Then August 1st, One Love London. They're doing a block party. I'll be doing a beat set there, so that's more specific to me. That's it for now for the live shows. There was some talk about a West Coast tour for me and another artist. We don't even know, so I'm not even gonna say, but there's talk. But I would love to do that, just being from Vancouver, and I think it would be a great opportunity.
Nice.
Music wise, gonna be start rolling out a project with G4 Jag. The album's called Alive.
Is G4 Jag, he's Toronto based or
Rochester?
Okay.
He's from Harlem, but he's based in Rochester. We also have a project, me, G4, Jag, and Black G's. Black G's is also from Rochester. Got a project with Blocklord in the works from New York. Ace on Eastwood and I have a project working on High Hopes and Lucid Dreams. So that's a follow-up to Barrel Plots and Pyramid Schemes. A lot of other things kind of in the works, touch and go. I'm working on a side project that's like really weird synth samples. So that's why I'm calling that one a bit of a side project.
Sure.
Always working on multiple things. You got to have,
busy.
Because you never know what's going to happen. Because like I've been working on some of these. I thought some of these were going to be already dropped. And then, one small move. And then, I didn't release music for almost 6 months. So you have multiple things going on. So if one thing doesn't come through, you can, move and fill that blank and that void.
That's real, man. In this indie artist grind, you never know when life gets in the way for yourself or for artists you're working with or whatever else comes up, right? So yeah, it does happen. Things get backburnered, and it's good to have many different pots bubbling, I guess. What's the best way for people to support you or other artists that they like in 2024?
Listen, share, tell a friend, like, comment, save. That's really it.
Yeah.
Send us a DM if you like the music. Just send a DM. Honestly, a lot of one of the biggest things that's kind of kept me going is I have a fan and he's in Kazakhstan. And he like messages me and tells me like how my music helps him and small things like that. I've had artists from Japan follow me and be like, yo, your grind and your motivation motivates me. And even something as small as that, just really like, I might be like, they always seem to come at the right time. I'll be like in a slump and be like, man, I'm throwing in the towel. I'm done. And then someone's like, yo, man, you motivate me. And I'm like, okay, towel's back out. I'm good to go. So,
that motivation can be very real, man. Hearing from people who are enjoying what we're doing goes a long way.
You see that meme floating around where it's like it costs nothing to support an indie artist. It's the likes, it's the shares, it's the comments. Even if you see if it's your friend, like even if you're scrolling and you don't like really have time to digest it, just hit that double tap. You know what I mean? That like Instagram might show it to 3 more people, and those 3 more people might have time to digest it.
Whatever you do, don't just scroll past your homies' posts without interacting, because that's teaching the algorithm the opposite. It's teaching it, nobody wants to see this, everybody's ignoring it, we're not going to show it to anybody, and it kills the reach. So Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly, man. Everybody tells me the same answer for that one. It's pretty standard. I just like hearing people say it, and I think it can't be said enough because there's still a lot of people out there who don't know, I guess, or don't, think about the kind of like music grind enough to even have that idea. But where can people find you on social media most often, dude?
Instagram is the platform I use the most, but any social media platform, it's usually at Imperetiv. Pretty simple.
Perfect.
But Instagram is the one that I use the most.
Right on, man. Well, thanks for doing this. Lots of love. I'm gonna keep playing your music on after the smoke is clear, and yeah, appreciate your time.
I appreciate you, man. Much love. Thank you for having me on.
Hell yes.
Imperative, listen to the kid.
All right. That was Imperetiv, and another episode of Fly In Formation. We got one more booked here in June. I've been doing them 2 a week, every Tuesday as well as every Saturday. And on Saturday, I'm talking to Alchemy the Linguist and Donnie Sage. That's going to be June 29th. And that'll be live at 3 in the afternoon Mountain Standard Time here on Twitch, so come through for that. If you don't know, you can always find After the Smoke is Clear at Sick Radio over on mixcloud.com/Doobyis. Doobyis.com is the hub for everything that I do, and it's a nice, easy place to find all the links. But like Imperative said, if you enjoy this shit, just hit us on social media. Hit me on social media. Let me know you're having a good time. Let me know, if there's questions you've got for the artists. I'm here to ask them. Appreciate everybody coming by in chat. Shouts out to y'all. I'll catch you next time.